Gentlemen, welcome to the Be the Man podcast. I'm your host, Greg Denning. I have been interviewing a lot of really good men lately for episodes that I'm going to be publishing in the next few weeks, so be excited about that. A lot of great guys who have accomplished incredible things. And a pattern has shown up again. I've seen it before, and it appeared again in these conversations. And it really boils down to this, that those who achieve something great, something extraordinary, something just beyond the common, right? Those who get uncommon results, they just don't mess around when it's time to get after it. Now, interestingly, most of them are actually quite playful and goofy, and they like practical jokes, and they like goofing off, and they like playing hard. But when it's time to work, man, they work. And it's interesting that so many good men get distracted and we get lazy, or we kind of go halfway. And so we give a fraction of an effort and call it good. Or we give the fraction, don't get the results we expected, so we kind of back away and say, well, yeah, I give it a try, it sure didn't work. Or, yeah, I tried it, and we'll go in hard. We'll go in hard for a time, but then we pull back, right? And I went, and it just didn't quite work out for me. So, yeah, that didn't work, right? And then we go on to the next thing or the next thing. And some men, they do that chronically and perpetually. They just go from one thing to the next, giving an effort for a minute and then backing away, right? And not staying fully in with enough intensity and for enough time, right? We have to have the intensity and the longevity. And so I just want to talk through this today, because I've experienced this myself, and I've seen it with so many people I get to work with, or as we've traveled around the world, literally on dozens of countries and 5 continents, and every walk of life and every kind of business. And every aspect of life, particularly in business, but it's the same is true how you show up as a husband and as a father, as a disciple, or in your spirituality. Like you literally can take any aspect of your life, your physical fitness, your health, your mind, the condition of your mind, the emotional mastery or the lack of emotional mastery. Just look at any part of it. And it really boils down to, like, when it's time to get results, what do you do? And I'm reminded of the excellent book called Mastery by George Leonard. And he talks about the path to mastery, but he also talks about the path of the dabbler. That they dabble, they try this, they try that, they try these little things, they dabble in it for a little bit, maybe even a burst of intensity, but then they eventually just stop. He talks about the path of, I think he calls it the obsessive, where they just go in and just crazy, like they just go, and then they eventually stop, right? Because they either burn out or they don't get the results. So, something happens where they're obsessed and it doesn't happen. And then he talks about the path, I think the other one is the hacker, where they're just trying to find shortcuts. They're trying to find some hack, trying to find some way around just going all in, right? And not messing around, which is the characteristic I'm talking about. And ultimately they stop as well. And in his perspective, it's like, look, the only people that truly become masters are the ones who get in and they just don't mess around. And you can see it in little ways and in big ways. You go to the gym, and the guys are getting results. When they're at the gym, they don't mess around. They're not chit-chatting with their buddies. They're not, do a couple reps here, a couple reps there, and show up every once in a while. They show up consistently, and when they're there, man, they put in the work. You go to a jiu-jitsu class or a martial arts class. The ones who are mastering the art, they do not mess around. When they get on the mat, it's go. Right now, they goof around before and after, and they joke and they have fun, and they're usually jovial guys. But when it's time to go, they go. The same is true when you're out with guys who are the warriors, and it's time to run and gun, and they're pulling out their weapons, and they're on the range. They don't mess around. They go in. And as you interview people and you talk to them and you kind of hear their story, you realize they picked something, and they had this grit and this determination, often driven by some kind of why, some kind of purpose or meaning. And it's interesting that changes very frequently. It couldn't be just one thing. It's like, oh, it's always this or it's always that. It's different for each man. But he's usually has something that's driving him, and he's developed this discipline and determination. In fact, when I talked to one of my friends who is extremely successful, he said that's it. It was determination. Just this absolute determination to succeed, no matter what. The gentleman I interviewed today, and man, I'm excited to share his podcast episode. It was awesome. He talked about just like this expectation that it was going to be hard, which I thought is really insightful, right? Because so often we want it to be easy. We hope it'll be easy. We hope, or even if we say, right, you might logically say, yeah, this is going to be a tough road. It's going to be hard. I'm ready for it. But then when it actually shows up and it is actually hard, you're like, geez. I mean, I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't think it was going to be this hard. Or, yeah, I talked about hard, but this is actually really hard. And it gets uncomfortable. It gets tough. And we get discouraged. Or we get distracted. Or we buffer. Like, instead of putting in the hard work, you're like, maybe I'll watch a movie. Or instead of, Brian Tracy wrote a book called Eat That Frog. Instead of eating that big old humming ugly frog, the thing you need to work on but is going to take the most work and effort, you stay busy doing a lot of other things. So maybe it's checking messages and running errands and answering emails. And man, you got all kinds of things to work on to keep you busy, but in avoidance of the big project, right? And so it's all little projects, little tasks, and you are busy and you are getting some stuff done. But in some cases, you're literally straightening deck chairs on the Titanic because your ship's going down and you're just making everything look pretty because you're not willing to go down below the deck, so to speak, and work on fixing the leaks and fixing the problems. And I want to bring this up and emphasize it right now. I've done a couple episodes already talking about this social and economic winter we're in, and that things are going to get worse. And it's going to be interesting here. The ones who will not mess around and they'll get after it and they'll prepare and they'll do the work and they'll improve themselves, right? So often the work that needs to be done is on ourselves. In fact, I could say always that's the case. We should be working harder on ourselves than we do on anything else. And if we're coming up short anywhere, it's because there's something that's short in us, right? If there's a weakness in our whole system, it's because there's a weakness in us. If there's a flaw in our outcomes, it's because there's a flaw in our thinking and our habits. And so it's imperative, and we have to just take total ownership of this, that we got to fix what's going on inside us. We got to change the inner world because, like James Allen says, man, I love, if you have not read or read recently As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, do that. I've read that book so many times, and every time I open it back up, I'm just wowed by his wisdom and insight. And we've actually been working through it as a family in our family devotionals, and reread this section where he says, look, that your outer circumstances are merely the just reward for your thoughts, and your outside life can be nothing else but the reflection of your inside life. And so we have to address the things on the inside. And again, there's that piece, right? Where, like, don't mess around. Successful men don't mess around. If something's broken, they're going to fix it. If it's off, they're going to get it right. And again, they might do that really well in one aspect and quite terribly in another. They might just be crushing at business. If there's a problem at work, they fix the problem. But that same man might have problems at home and he avoids them. He doesn't address it. He doesn't, deal with that big old gorilla sitting in the room there. And this problem he skirts it. He doesn't talk about it. He avoids the conversation with his wife because it's uncomfortable. It'll turn into a fight. They never face it. They don't learn how to communicate effectively. Or maybe it's with the kids. It's just his relationship with his kids is really struggling, and he doesn't do anything about it. Just keeps limping along, hoping it changes, right? But it doesn't. Or maybe he's doing great with family and great with business, but his health is struggling and it's off. And instead of addressing it, that's one area of his life where he's not taking it seriously. He just keeps messing around. And right, we've all done this. I've done it. You've done it. And you get this area, you're like, yeah, that's that one area in my life where, let's not talk about that, because that's the area I want to leave out of the conversation. But I guess that's my point, fellas, is we can't leave that area out of the conversation. Every area has to be brought to the light, set on the table, so to speak, discussed, analyzed, and revealed for what it is and for what's going on. And then get clear about the problem. And sometimes you might not understand the problem. And I guess that's where I'm at, is where, successful people with that kind of intensity, if something comes up, they're going to say, what's the problem here? And they're going to dig and dig and dig and dig, and they're going to face it until they find out what is the problem. But then in other areas of life, we don't dig into it. We don't understand it. And we use that as an excuse of like, well, I don't know what to do. These people are just doing that, or this situation is just like that. And we put forth maybe a weak effort and say, well, I tried. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to fix this. And we use that, like, that's the point of our determination. We get there like, I'm not sure what to do, and then that's it. But if we're going to be optimized in a holistic way, then we've got to address every part of life and dial in, figure out what the problem is, and stop messing around. And there's nothing better than a winter time period in the history of the world, or in your life, to thin that stuff out. And it's incredible, man. This winter is going to expose so many people, because when things are good and comfortable and easy, man, everybody and their dog can be, quote, successful, right, and get some results. But when the winter comes in and things get lean and things get tough, then it will be those with grit and determination, with clear thinking, good mindsets, solid habits. Those are the guys that are going to make it through. And not only are they going to be the ones that survive, they are going to thrive. They're going to clean up, because there's going to be so many opportunities, fellas, where you're going to be able to buy businesses or real estate or whatever. Like, opportunities are going to pop up. You're going to be able to get things for pennies on the dollar, and you're going to be able to scoop up other parts of the industry, right? So people that are in your industry, whatever your industry is, if they don't have this kind of grit, and if they don't have the kind of work ethic and determination and commitment, if they're not on the path to mastery, man, when things get tough, they're going to drop. They're going to be out. And I'm sharing this because I hope that's not you. I hope you're not going to be one of those guys that's just like, man, wow, things got hard, I'm out. And I hope you see the opportunities. But with that, we've got to get in now, and we might have just a short window. I don't know. And maybe this winter will last several years. I don't know that either. But you'd have been better off preparing a couple of years ago. If you didn't, today's your day. And man, we just gotta stop messing around. I don't know any other way to say it than to get serious about it. Get serious about serious things. You've heard me say this before, that men generally have this tendency to be really passionate about things that really don't matter that much in life, and quite passive about things that do matter. We've got it totally backwards. And that's why you can see guys who, man, they know everything about a sport or certain players and stats or fantasy football or whatever, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but at the end of the day, fantasy football doesn't matter that much, right? That's not going to affect the quality of your life. And they might know all that. They might know, their favorite musicians or their movies. They can quote. You guys know that. Men who can just quote movies endlessly, right? And they've watched all the movies and seen all the things or whatever it is, whatever the hobby is. And again, nothing wrong with that. But see how we get passionate and, man, we exercise our creativity and our memorization and we put in the time and effort and attention and focus into things that ultimately don't matter that much. And then you're like, man, well, what about this? Like, I don't know. What about this skill? What about this knowledge base? Yeah, I'm busy. I haven't been able to get to it, right? And so they're passive about things that would make a huge difference. So a couple of questions for you. What skill would make the biggest positive difference in your earning ability? What skill set or knowledge base? What resources? Yes, but I'm going to emphasize resourcefulness over resources. So what resources would be great, but also what resourcefulness will be just a total game changer for you in a winter situation. So play this out in your mind. We've already done this, and I hope you're still doing it, thinking through this. But just play it out in your head. Like, where do you need to get more serious about serious things? What are the things that are most important in your life? And what might be the weaknesses or the exposed or vulnerable areas in that? When you put pressure, I love to see the imagery of a pipe, right? You take a pipe that has water running through it, and if you guys have done any plumbing, you plumb it up, right? And you do the Teflon tape and screw it in, or you put the glue in and kind of glue it together, and you got the pipe there, and everything looks fantastic. And then you turn on pressure, right? And so when you open up the valve all the way and you put pressure into the pipe, does it hold? And what's interesting is where there's a weakness in pressure, it'll crack, right? It'll crack the pipe. And man, there's some guy here in the parking lot with his muffler, and he's running it to let everyone know he has arrived. But you go back to the pipe. So you're pushing in tons of water into the pipe, and wherever there's weakness, it'll crack. So it might be in the joint, or it might be somewhere along the pipe, and it starts to crack, and then you get a leak, and then the pressure keeps going until that leak bursts. And so you might want to examine all the pipes, so to speak, and look at every important aspect of your life and say, where have you been taking it easy or messing around or avoiding it? Where are you exposed? So if we're talking about like a literal winter, you go around the house and like you're going to check all the windows and doors and all the seals, and make sure everything closes tight and there's no gaps around the doors or window where that cold wind's going to come blowing in, or the moisture, or the cold, or loose shingles where the roof's going to leak. So anyways, it's just something to look at, and something that's just been on my mind again lately is successful guys, they just don't mess around. When it's time to get after it. And so, I think a lot of it is going to be built in conditioning and training and habit. You train yourself to be able to do that. You condition yourself to be able to do it. And at first, it might be challenging for you. It might be difficult. It might be uncomfortable. In fact, I can probably guarantee that it's going to be difficult and uncomfortable. But you learn how to just stay in it. And obviously you need recovery, right? And you need to be in a good, healthy spot physically, mentally, spiritually, and socially, your relationships. Just be in a good, healthy spot. Take care of yourself. Get recovery time. Rest and recovery is a responsibility. And so I guess that's the other thing, is like the successful guys, they're not wearing themselves down. They're stopping to sharpen the saw. So they're not just grinding all the time. But man, when it's time to work, they get things done. And they can get more done in less time than most people combined. And that's the power. And if they can do it, you can do it. Right? And so I'm doing the same thing. I'm my own audience here. I'm gonna look through my life and be like, hey, where have I been maybe taking it easy, or just, it's not even necessarily taking it easy, but I just haven't been turned on. I haven't been totally dialed in or intense enough about it where, yeah, maybe I'm dabbling or hacking or a little bit obsessive here and there, a little bursts here and there, but nothing real sustainable. And you guys have heard my acronym before, CAVI, CAVI, right? I had this, it must have been like 2 decades ago. I thought, man, every morning we got to get up and have our morning CAVI, and it's consistent and vigorous improvement. And those 2 elements are absolutely necessary. Because if it's just vigorous and not consistent, you'll get little results here and there, but it won't be great results. And then if it's consistent but not vigorous, you're also not going to get very great results. So it has to be both consistent and vigorous improvement. And some guys are consistent and vigorous and just going in circles, just going round and round and never making palpable progress, or getting very obvious evidence of improvement and growth. So let's examine our lives, gentlemen. Look through it and embrace. See, the greatest advantage we have is, especially now, man, it used to be so hard to meet an individual that was successful or to get a hold of a book of someone that was successful. But now with technology and books being available and podcasts and YouTube videos and courses and classes, and I mean it's all over the place. We get so much great exposure, to great people, but I was going to say we also get tons of exposure and distraction to idiots, right? And all kinds of junk and wasted time entertainment. But if we have access to these great examples, and they're out there busting it, and they're telling their story of how they didn't mess around and they got after it. And if you and I will do the same, make a list. This would be a good thing to do on a writing exercise. It's going to be a short list, right? It's a short list of the things that really matter, the things that are most important, the things that you need to take serious. So we might call it your serious list, right? Make your short list of serious things, and then get serious about those things. This just kills me, man. When we're coaching, and say my wife does coaching too, and we'll be coaching our clients, or we'll go speak or present in groups, and we hear these stories. I'm like, man, when are you going to get serious about fixing this thing or investing in your relationships and making it right? We just dabble so much in it, hoping it fixes itself, hoping those relationships or those situations take care of themselves. They don't, right? That's like hoping your garden takes care of itself, or planting something every once in a while, or pulling weeds every once in a while, or watering it every once in a while. Man, it's just not going to work. And because I can see it, especially from the outside, right? So, and again, it's always easier to see it from the outside, but I'm standing there like, when are you going to get serious about this? When are you going to actually make those drastic changes in your attitude or your mindset or your education or your skill set? When are you going to make the changes that need to happen in your family dynamics, in your family legacy? When are you going to make those changes in your finances? You talk about it, you think about it, you talk about it some more. When are you actually going to get serious about it? So make the short list of serious things, write out a plan of what does it look like. And maybe some of you have never done that. And even those of you, because a lot of you are listening, you're already successful in a lot of ways. So if you're doing that, keep doing it. Fantastic. Congratulations. Like, genuinely a lot of honor to you for doing that. I want you to look at the areas where you haven't been taking it seriously. And if you're nailing it all the way across the board, dude, kudos to you, brother. That's fantastic. Make sure you do a planning session on how to maintain that, right? Make it sustainable. My guess is all of us have at least one area where we haven't been taking it serious enough, and there's plenty of room there to level up and to take serious things seriously. So let's get after it. Let's make that happen. Quick reminder, gentlemen, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, subscribe to the podcast. You can leave a review up to 5 stars on there. Share it with friends, family, colleagues who need these reminders and these great lessons for being a whole man. And reach out, connect with me on social media. You can ask questions. Jump in there. Remember, the Be the Man app is out. It's live. It's on Android. It's on Apple. Just go grab it and download it. There's a free course. If you don't have it yet, there's a free course in there called Level Up. It's an awesome course. It breaks down the whole triple trifecta. And there is also my recommended book list for men in there. And again, when you guys hear me talk about this, because I just love it, I live for it, and it's part of my life's work, is the Be the Man Masterclass and Tribe, and just this awesome brotherhood. And you're always invited there. We'd love to have you join us and gain from the group and contribute to the group. So, love you, fellas. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being great men. Let's take serious things seriously. Let's get after it. Be the man.